DLSU Radio, Green Giant FM. Welcome to the second episode of What's Up Bro podcast, season 2, might I add. My name is DJ Cora.
And I'm DJ Miggy.
And as the title suggests, this is a collaboration shared with the De La Salle brothers of the Philippines. So what would this podcast be without our very special guests here today? Maybe our fellow brothers would like to introduce themselves?
Hi everyone, good evening. I'm Brother Miggy from Singapore. I'm currently staying here in the St. Joseph's Institution Brothers community, but I work in the international school. So one of the things that probably I like to do, and I love to do, especially that I'm an Ilonggo, is of course I love to eat. I love anything that's sweet, anything that's meaty, and what else? One of the things that I love to do, especially here now that I'm in Singapore, is I like to walk around and enjoy the scenic views.
Thank you so much, Brother Miggy. Okay, how about our next guest?
Hello everyone, I'm Brother Richie. I'm a graduate of LaSalle Green Hills and took up legal management in De La Salle University. But after I graduated, I joined the brothers and have been with the brothers for the last 21 years in my life and been assigned to many different LaSalle schools, including Hong Kong. Currently, I am a faculty of the senior high here at De La Salle University. So I think when Brother Miggy mentioned his interest, we have the same interest, food.
Yeah.
And so just to make sure that our weight are maintained and our health is good, I practice yoga, swim, and gym. So those are the three things that I enjoy doing aside from working.
All right. Thank you so much, Brother Miggy and Brother Richie. Also, thank you so much for joining us here today on this podcast because our listeners have so many questions for both of you. And today we'll be talking a little bit more about being ready to become a brother, right? So it's a really big question on the minds of our listeners. And so with that, let's dive right into it. Our first question reads, what are the vows of the brothers? Is it the same as those who are married or in the religious life as priests? Maybe somebody would like to explain on that further.
Okay. I'll start. I think with regards to our vows as brothers, we have, aside from the three usual or regular vows that we have as religious and priests, poverty, chastity, and obedience, we De La Salle brothers have two additional vows, the vow of association and the vow of stability. Now, how do you relate that to, is it the same as the one with the priest, the one with those having marriage vows? In fact, a few minutes ago, I was actually trying to read, ano bang kinaiba o anong the same nila? And I was reading it, parang parehas, like there was a line there when you do marriage vows. In richness or in richness or in poor, that's like, wait, parang poverty and in our sense as brothers. And aside from that, what makes our vow special as brothers is that we have these two additional vows of association for the mission and the vow of stability, meaning we're associated for the mission together with our late partners. We associate ourselves with our late partners, to our students, to our alumni, to our parents, to ensure that the mission, goes forward. The mission continues to be relevant, that we can continue to change the lives of our students. And of course, stability. If you notice, all the mission base of LaSalle is all about school. So we try to become stable in that field of education. So I think Brother Richie can say some more of that.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think this is a common question that's been asked by me, by my students, and those curious about our vows. Oftentimes people think that the vow of celibacy that the priests profess are the same as the vows of chastity that we have. But there's a big difference. You see, in the vows of celibacy, you promise not to get married. The vows of chastity, on the other hand, which the brothers take and many religious congregations take also, is really about being available to all. Some people would call it parang like it's an open relationship, but really it frees us from having an exclusive relationship Rather, our relationship should be more inclusive. That we are supposed to be brothers for all.
Oh, thank you so much. I actually received this question also as the only Lasallian in my family. And it's great to know the differences and also the similarities that you share with our fellow religious life members of the community. And with that, actually, I have a follow-up question. How different is it being a De La Salle brother compared to being a priest? Because people get the misconception that brothers are waiting to become priests rather. Yes.
Ours is more fun. That's for sure.
When we were having classes with other religions, when we were siguro younger in the formation years, people would also say, when is your ordination? When is your priest? When will you become ordained to the priesthood? So what we would always say that no, we will not become priests. And I think all the brothers decided to become a brother. And it's not just a brother, but we decided to become a brother. And I think what makes it nice is that we're able to be available to everyone, as what Brother Richie said kanina about chastity. We're available for all. We're brothers for all. Hindi lang selected to our parish, not just select to your wife, you know? But we're available. We are able to love all. And to make it simpler, when people ask us, what's the difference between a brother and a priest? One funny thing that we were able to make up when we were in the early part of our formation, just imagine a madre na lalaki. So that's
that makes a better picture. Yes.
Yeah. That pretty much that really describes our vocation, that we are like male nuns. But once upon a time, like people like Saint Francis chose to become a brother rather than to become a priest, precisely because we have a particular mission that we want to give our full attention to. And if we were priests, we will be divided, in the parish as well as in the schools. So even from the start, Saint LaSalle wanted all the members of the congregation to be brothers, precisely so that we can focus on education.
Thank you so much, brothers. Okay, so with that said, I believe DJ Miggy here has a follow-up question in relation to this.
All right, thank you, Cora. So the next question is, which of the vows is most challenging for you as De La Salle brothers?
All right, I'll start. Obedience. I'm a very disobedient brother. No. No, I think it's really because you are part of the ministry. Part of your obedience is your promise to go wherever you may be sent and to do whatever may be assigned to you. And when you go to one place, and this is, I wouldn't say the vows are the most challenging for me. The most challenging for me is the annual heartbreak. You see, when you start the school year, you invest yourself, you open yourself to relationships, to your students especially. And then at the end of the year, you have to say goodbye to them, especially, when they're graduating. And that's and then, after heart is broken, you only have a few weeks before you start opening yourself up again to another set of students. So it's that yearly break, yearly heartbreak that makes it difficult. And it doesn't get any easier as you go, you stay longer. And so usually every 3 years you get transferred from one school to the next. So imagine all those people you have to say goodbye to after 3 years because you have to go somewhere else. And that's why for me, obedience is kind of the most difficult because, especially when you start negotiating, asking, can I stay a little bit longer? At the end of the day, you just have to say yes. I go wherever I may be sent.
Okay, so just like Brother Richie, again another similarity of Ilonggos. the most difficult or the most challenging of the vows is obedience. We're young and we want to do everything that we want to do. We have our own ways of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
We want to get assigned. I want to get assigned in a place that my superiors don't even know that I want, or anywhere that I want to go. So for me, it's challenging because we have our different ways of interpreting things, different ways of doing things. And sometimes, doon nagkakabanggaan, doon nagkakasimula ng conflict. But what I like about this obedience that I learned throughout my years as a brother is that this obedience is not blind obedience na, hoy, punta ka doon. Doon ka pumunta sa wherever. But this obedience, just like what Brother Richie mentioned, there's a factor of dialogue, which makes it more fruitful, more meaningful. And for me, I think this is one of the things that I appreciate about the vow of obedience is that your opinion is heard, the opinion of the superiors are heard, and at the end of the day, we decide on things. We are able to negotiate, and we're able to do things for the mission. At the end of the day, the mission wins because of the vow of obedience. It leads us to obey, at the end of the day, God's will for us. So wherever that is, whatever that work is, at the end of the day, we know that through our dialogue, through our prayer, we're able to fulfill God's will through our yes.
Thank you so much, brothers. I think a lot of people, especially in our audience, can actually understand that. I mean, we are all human beings at the end of the day. We have our own individual needs and wants that sometimes are against what we need to do, but at the end of the day, we have to follow. It's a matter of obedience, something everyone can actually relate to. Thank you so much. Proceeding to the next question, actually, as you are the LaSalle brothers, a lot of people have been asking, is living in an all-male household more challenging?
Not really. It depends on the composition of the community. I mean, the brothers community. I mean, I've lived in different communities, in different parts of the country and even abroad. I didn't think, for example, that I would click well with the brothers here in Taft, but surprise, surprise, it's been a good transition for me. We're fun, nagbibiroan, naghahagutan sa elevator, nagtutulakan. Brother Miggy knows that he was with us for a few months. I would scare Brother Miggy late at night because he doesn't like ghosts. So it really depends on who you live with, and of course it depends on you also. How much you are open to new relationships when you and even to continue the relationships even if there are conflicts. I think what's we're from what I've heard, it's much more difficult if it's an all if the brothers in a way do not know each other that much. So it's important to get to know each other. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Brother Miggy.
For me, no, it's not actually challenging. In fact, it's very fun. It's like, para siyang hindi naman siyang Pinoy Big Brother, but it's more like, you're like college students or students who have a single dorm, naghaharutan, nagsisayahan, nag-aaway. And I think that's part of the process of growing as brothers. I mean, it's part of it. And do I enjoy it? Yes. Brother Richie would scare me. He would, when we were watching movies, especially horror movies, nako, I wouldn't realize sometimes he's at my back saying, boom! And then, I'm shouting already. And then, yun pala recorded. And oh my God, Brother Richie has a lot of recordings of those. And I hope he deleted them already. But more or less, living with a group of men in a community, it's fun. It's how you react, and it's how you handle yourself when difficulties happen, when you have a difference of opinion, when you have difference, gusto ko lang ganito pagkain. And I think that there's, again, I think it all boils up in good relationships and good dialogue with one another that allows you to grow better.
All right. So both of you mentioned the community and how a lot of things really go on within that community, even yung pag-aaway. So with that being said, how do you handle conflicts within the community? Because a lot of people can't imagine what it's like for people living a religious vocation to get mad. Because when people visualize or see you, the first impression is you are filled with so much happiness and joy. They always see you smiling. So what's it like to handle conflict within the community?
Okay. Well, I think what people see us when people see us outside, obviously, like everyone else, when you're outside seeing other people, you put on your best face. But like everyone else, sometimes there are conflicts at home, and I think for brothers we have structures or processes wherein how do we resolve certain conflicts. Obviously, the easiest is to talk to the brother about it directly. Confront the brother. Sometimes we have old practices such as fraternal correction, but it's always good to talk to the brother about it. Now, if that cannot be resolved between the two of you, then the brother director intervenes in some way. And if no amount of intervention can happen, then the brothers will just have to bear with it until someone is transferred to another place, if and when that happens.
Yeah, and I agree with what Brother Richie has mentioned. And I think conflicts are a part of community life. In fact, conflicts allow us to grow more, to know more about ourselves, to know more about our brothers in the community, which in turn allows you to grow in understanding, in patience, in perseverance in the community. And I think it again boils up it ends with dialogue. If you know that the other party is not going to talk, then if you want a peaceful and happy relationship, then go right ahead. Talk to this brother you're having conflict with. Otherwise, wala. I mean, you won't grow as a person if you won't talk it out, if you won't talk to this brother, that brother. I think we need to talk about a certain issue. And I think it all starts with someone initiating the process of dialogue. And again, as what Brother Richie mentioned, if talking to that brother does not work, then the brother director comes in and until either brother will be transferred somewhere else.
And if I may add, there is still no resolution to the banter between me and Brother Miggy, which Ilonggos are better, whether it's from Iloilo or from Bacolod. And he just cannot accept that it's from Iloilo.
No, I will never accept that. I think 1/3 of the brothers are Ilonggos from Bacolod, so nako, brother, be very careful.
Yeah, but remember, all Ilonggos came from Iloilo.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So there you see, just an example.
It's an ongoing war.
Yes, it's an ongoing war, in social media and wherever, between me and Brother Miggy.
All right, thank you so much, brothers. Actually, people can learn a thing or two from you guys in your own community and your own households, how to handle conflict with the people they live with. So with that, actually, we can proceed to the next segment or the next question, Cora.
Yes, so a while ago you did mention that one of your vows is poverty, and also you have the association for the mission. And we know, or we're familiar, that the mission of the brothers is for the service of the poor. But based on our last episode, we heard that a common misconception for the De La Salle brothers is that it can be hard to imagine how the De La Salle brothers live their vow of poverty, because the stigma that the La Sallian community is very affluent and rich, or yes. So how do you reconcile or conform these two ideas with each other?
Okay, let me start. Well, from the beginning, I think if you look at the history, St. John Baptist de La Salle really wanted to start schools that are free of charge for all people. Actually, it's not just the poor students, but even including the rich students. And in fact, the reason why he got so much into trouble was that he was welcoming rich students and we're not charging them with any tuition. But back then, he had benefactors, generous sponsors to help run the schools. And for a long time, in the history of the brothers in the last 300 years, majority of the teachers are brothers, and therefore you didn't need to charge the students really that much. Unfortunately, now there are fewer brothers, so you have to charge tuition to, so that we can keep the quality of education by keeping good quality teachers as well. In the history of the Philippines, the intention really of the Archbishop of Manila when they invited the brothers to come is to open schools for the rich and affluent, primarily because he wanted the future children, the children of the future rich and affluent people to actually have the same heart for the poor in that sense. And that's what we are continuing today. Of course, we made efforts to make sure that at least 20% of our students in all LaSalle campuses are in full scholarship so that we can accommodate those who deserve but cannot afford. And yet, if you look at whether we're successful in in getting our students, whether they're rich or poor, in having a heart for the poor, I think we're pretty much successful. And I can give you many examples, but the most recent one was the LaSalle Community Pantry, which continues to we will have 2 more this December. It's the longest community pantry ever.
Yes.
I'm very much involved in that with that group. And you notice that even what we give what is best for the poor. People were criticizing, bakit Starbucks, bakit Brothers Burger? Market poor yan doesn't mean that they deserve less. I mean, we want to give the best to them. And that's, I think, our ways, in hoping that all our students will also have the same heart for the last, the lost, and the least. So if that alone, I think we're comfortable in saying we're doing a good job. And we're helping the poor in so many ways. With the service learning projects of our students, with all the outreach, I think we're much more effective that way.
And to add to what Brother Richie mentioned, just like in the time of the founder, yes, most of the students were poor, but again, some of the students who came to the schools of the LaSalle were rich. In fact, that's where he got problems. Kasi yung mga rich people left their schoolmasters. They left the schoolmasters and went to the school of De La Salle, and then that's where they argued na De La Salle did not have any teaching license or teaching institution. They're not properly recognized. And I think because of the perseverance of De La Salle, he was able to survive all the challenges that was thrown at him. And those schools continued to evolve. 300 years later, we have a lot of schools in 80 plus countries in the world. And to mention some of the schools, it's not just the rich or the expensive schools that we have here in the LaSallian Mission here in the Philippines. We also have to think about our other LaSalle schools here in the Philippines. For instance, I was assigned there a few months back. Our school in Paga, St. Jaime Hilario School, De La Salle, Bataan. That school really takes care of the students in that area, which most of them are financially challenged. In fact, when I was asking around, how much is the tuition? Magkano ang tuition for 1 year? And they would say 1,700. And more than half of the school population there pays 1,700 for 1 school year. The rest are paying a higher amount, but the gap is very minimal, like 2,200, 3,000, and so on and so forth, depending kung ano ang capacity ng parents or capacity ng family ng students to pay for the tuition. And that's where you get the holistic education, because the reason why we charge them that 1,700 is that they can have, the students, the family can have a sense of ownership for their education. And at the same time, also, of course, as what Brother Richie has mentioned, to pay also for our staff, our teachers who are working there. It's difficult to look for money to pay for everything. That's why, and also to instill a sense of ownership for the education of the students. That's why we charged it. And at the same time, we can also look at the supervised schools where we're also teaching or helping non-LaSalle schools to better their education so that they can also help in the area or in the society where those schools are established.
Thank you so much. Very beautifully said also. As a person who is undergoing or receiving at present a LaSallian formation and education, I can really say that I appreciate this part of what I'm learning in school, that we use what we have for helping lift others up in that sense. And so thank you so much. So with that, we come to our last question, right?
All right. Thank you, Cora. So the last question, although we can kind of already expect an answer from this based on your previous answers, but for the sake of asking it, do you consider your fellow brothers as your family also?
Yes, definitely, yes.
Definitely, yeah.
And it's and like all families, we have our favorites, we have our black sheep, we have our and we have committed ourselves. We have made a vow to treat them as family and love them as family. So if you're interested in joining the brothers, be very aware. You should be very aware that you're getting married to dozens and hundreds of men in that sense.
Yes, just like what Brother Richie again mentioned, that brothers are our family. We're like older brothers, younger brothers. We do the same things. We work the same thing. We work in the school. At the same time, we do things that we love. We exercise together. We eat together. We watch scary movies together. We scare each other. And we do some crazy, silly things together. So just like one family, one household, we have that uniting factor, which is our love for the mission, our love for God, manifested in our mission for the schools.
All right. Thank you so much, brothers. And a quick follow-up on that, a bit of a fun game type of question for you guys. So what are the top 3 topics that are allowed and top 3 forbidden topics during meals when you eat together as brothers, like during lunch or dinner? What are the things you can and cannot discuss on the table?
We can talk about what's happening in school. We can talk about politics. We can talk about someone else if he's not in the table.
May onding pagchichismis rin pala sa mga brothers.
Hala.
But I think it depends also in the composition of the community. Sometimes what we cannot talk about what's happening in school because they prefer some certain boundaries. So it depends on who we're with or who are the brothers in the community. So sometimes it's a taboo also not to talk about what's happening in school. And I don't think there are other things that we're not supposed to talk about. Well, juvenile stuff, I suppose, or any joke that is leaning towards the green. Parang those are some of the things that, So it's always a wholesome conversation. I don't, of course, we don't start talking about Iloilo and Bacolod because it's just going to,
it's endless.
It's a really long discussion.
It's endless. And he has to be careful, especially when he's around a lot of Ilonggos from Bacolod. He often keeps quiet when there are a lot of Ilonggos from Bacolod.
No.
Well, for one,
maybe you can add to that maybe you can add something, Miggy. Brother Miggy.
Siguro one taboo not to talk about in the table, especially if LaSalle loses to the blue school. Naku, don't talk about when some brothers are in the table because papagalitan ka. I will not name the brother, but I know of one.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Oh yes. Be very careful with that brother. Be very mindful, especially if LaSalle loses to any major sport or to the sport that they play in UAAP, be very careful. And also sometimes it's not a taboo, but dinner tables can sometimes become instant school meetings when work is being talked about. So we oftentimes try to think of a different topic, like what did you watch on Netflix? What's a nice horror movie to watch after dinner? Or what's the latest K-drama that you're watching? Like, especially when this one time naging uso yung Crash Landing on You. That was the talk of the town in the brothers community. We were talking about it. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
All right. Thank you so much, brothers. I feel like our audience is really excited and engaged with how much we're diving into the lives of the De La Salle brothers. And as much as we want to go on, that's all the time we have for this episode. But if ever you want to learn more about the lives of the De La Salle brothers, you can stay tuned for our next episode. And in the meantime, you can check out the DLS brothers through their social media platforms. So you can head over to their Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify, which is De La Salle Brothers of the Philippines.
You can also make sure to check out their Instagram and their Twitter, which is at DLS Brothers PH. And for those of you who wish to discern more with the brothers, you may also send an email to vocations@delasalle.ph. And of course, let's not forget that you would also like to stay tuned with us here on Green Giant FM. You will also have our following social media links.
You can check us out on our Facebook and Twitter, which is at Green Giants FM.
We also have our Instagram, which is greengiant.fm.
Also, you can check out our new Twitter, which is bit.Ly/uppercase GGFM-YT.
And if you'd like to tune into this podcast in full, as well as our other podcasts, you may do so on our Spotify, which is Green Giant FM. And just like that, once again, my name is Cora.
And I'm DJ Miggy.
And this is Brother Miggy.
And this is Brother Richie.
And this has been the What's Up Bro podcast. Thank you and God bless.